I was shopping at a grocery store and God told me to marry Don Brooks, and I dropped the groceries. I was with my friends and I said, take these. I gotta go tell Don I'll marry him. I came and I found Don and he had asked me to marry him, and I said, well, I just can't tell you right now. Well, I came out and I said, Don, he was going across the yard, and I said, Don, I will. He looked at me and he said, well, that's good. Pick up those boards down there and move them. That was Pop. That was my Pop. He's the one that has made every dream I ever had. Pop made it happen. I said, God, I'll be Don Brooks' wife. I'll live out here in this country. At that time, there was nothing here. We had a little bitty house and a barn, and that was it. All this where we are now was woods. So we lived in this little house and had these 3 kids. Everything's supposed to make you happy. But inside, I thought I was missing it. I thought the world was going on in Hollywood or New York, or it was going on, and I'm missing it. I just always wanted to be something. I think everybody does, don't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely everybody does.
I met a woman. I was at a retreat. I was searching, and she told me she'd had an experience with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit was like, you know, a spook.
Sure.
But I was so desperate, and she had such a glow on her face. She was just so happy. I opened my eyes, and it's like, David, it's like I had been asleep. I started walking. We had a path down the horseborns down there now. One time I was coming back, and God said, Hetty, if you had your choice, what would you like to be? I laughed and I said, well, I'd really like to preach, but I know I'm a woman. I can't do that. Camp was going. 9 years of camp, maybe close to 10. And God began to speak to me that there was a church in His heart that He was looking for. Nobody was getting saved. Nobody was getting empowered to be aggressive for the Lord. Birdie Johnson, my friend, she told me, she said, I'm starved. We have to have a church. And Hetty, we can have a church in our house. And I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm a woman. I said, Don, I don't know what we're going to do. Now you've got something to say, and people ought to listen to you. You ought to do that. Well, if you don't fit in any other church, we just have to start. We'll just have to start one. Well, I can't have a church out here. Where are people going to come from? Who's going to come? Well, there's nothing out here. Camp had gone on. We had poured this floor right where you are now. Don figured out how we could do it. He put a roof over it, and both ends were all open. The front was open, and he just had poles everywhere to hold up the roof. We'll move camp up here. He came and bulldozed off and cleared out this spot. We realized that camp was going to go. Then we went over in the briars and the bushes, and oh man, trying to position where we'd put that pavilion. Then we closed this in, became our house. The kids would get up in at 6 o'clock or so and turn all this furniture around. People started coming. I would bake 2 cakes at 4 o'clock on Sunday morning. The thing grew till down the kitchen on both sides of the island there. Chairs were all, and finally they were sitting on the cabinets. We had church here, turning the furniture around, and right over there, between those 2 windows was where we put the pulpit, and then people this way and that way, kind of in this L shape. Probably 60, 70. And then when it got that big, we moved over to the pavilion. God supernaturally opened up the door for us to build what we call now the fellowship hall or the chapel. Then we added the wings on, then we added the side and the wings on the back. And the money came, we don't even know where it came from.
Wow.
I never did anything that was against my husband's will.
Sure.
I never usurped authority over the men in our ministry. I had lots of people come by and give their opinion. You're going to raise masculine women and feminine men. And just the opposite has happened. 17-year-old little boy out at Cutter Morning School, and he started playing that piano and singing, and I said, mercy, what a voice. It was Russ Taff.
Wow.
Russ Taff stood right over there and with his guitar led praise and worship here.
Wow.
Larry Randolph is now a prophet, has written books. Chuck Warnock has a huge church now down in Longview. Bob Mason, a missionary, he has built hundreds of little churches. Jim Pennington, he and his wife are missionaries in Europe. I'd get people up. They can't learn to talk if you don't get them up.
Right.
We've had Andre Crouch, Pat Boone, John and Dodie Osteen more than once, Ken Copeland, Jerry Savelle, Happy Caldwell, Vicki Jameson, Charles Capps, Art Katz, and my little David Barton and Cheryl Barton. It was phenomenal how the Spirit of God moved on Tim Brooks, and I took him everywhere. Not one time to this very day have I ever said to Tim Brooks, Tim, you're supposed to pastor the church. In this list is David Pate. I never dreamed you would be my great son-in-law. I never dreamed that you would be running camp, that you would be a pastor in our church and the head of our school. Nothing that I have done was feasible. I mean, how did God bring people that God called to make all that money to build our new church, to give us the best? You know, I never feel when I go to our church, I never feel that people have begrudged what they do. David, when I decided to have this church, it cost me everything. Brook Hill Ranch, Christian Ministries. I say, God, I have gotten to experience your kingdom here on this earth. And we're working every day to grow more and more and more into His likeness and to do His will on this earth like it is in heaven.